Hey everyone, I'm Cosmic and welcome to the Cloud. A little while ago I made a video covering the evolution of Splatoon's single-player design across the series. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched and commented on it. There was actually a lot of really good discussion going on, which is exactly what I was hoping would happen, and I've had a lot of fun going through replying to as many people as I can in the comments. A decent amount of people shared my sentiments, but there were also a lot of others expressing views different from my own, especially when it comes to Splatoon 3. Luckily, most people were actually really respectful and nice, and I thought it might be interesting to keep the conversation going by featuring some notable points viewers made. People generally seem to agree with my thoughts on the first three campaigns, though there was some discussion about them too. However, this video will mostly be about Splatoon 3's Return of the Mammalians. In my video, I said that Splatoon 3's campaign is my least favorite, even below Octo Canyon. I do still stand by this opinion, although many comments have given me a greater appreciation for Return of the Mammalians and what it aimed to do. So first things first. Yeah, the most controversial part of the video was definitely my claim that the Splatoon 3 hub worlds were not fun to traverse due to the Fuzzy Ooze mechanic slowing down the pacing with shallow gameplay. And by far one of the most frequent comments on the video are ones stating that Fuzzy Ooze actually was fun, or relaxing, or satisfying, or that it scratched a completionist itch. And that's totally valid. If you enjoyed the alternate hubs, great. I'm not here to tell you to not like something, but since it bothered me so much, I'll admit it took me a while to understand why other people liked it. It wasn't until I read this comment by Mate Volto that it finally hit me. They said, "Push and pull does not define fun. Getting rid of the ooze is fun despite not being interactive or challenging because it allows for more exploration, discovery, and interaction with the environment." And clearly other people agree with this notion. Truth be told, I don't think I was completely fair to the Fuzzy Ooze mechanic in my analysis. What happened is, while playing Splatoon 3 myself, I just couldn't fathom the decision to abandon the old hub world structure, where each area was full of bounce pads, gushers, propeller lifts, moving UFOs, and other mechanics that made the hubs feel interactive and fun, and instead replace it with mostly flat, stagnant levels where all you can do is shoot the ground to get items. I now kind of understand what they were trying to do. This is a new type of gameplay for Splatoon. Not combat or platforming, but secret hunting. While I personally found it tedious and boring, I can respect that it's just a different kind of gameplay loop and not inherently something of less value than the traditional gameplay formula. I admit that I was viewing the mechanic through a narrow lens, and that my perspective as a veteran player set me up for expectations that were simply not met by this campaign. I see now that it's just not for me, but is for other people, and that's fine. I would still argue though that the secret hunting segments don't mesh too well with the existing gameplay, and that it feels designed for a different kind of player. Maybe if this type of exploration was found in a different mode than the normal single player, it would be a different story, but I really can't get past the way it slows down the pacing between otherwise high-octane levels. I understand where you guys are coming from, but Fuzzy Ooze is just not for me, and I don't think it ever will be. But why doesn't Fuzzy Ooze work? Well, I think it could have been really cool with some changes, so let's talk about its untapped potential. Even if you liked Fuzzy Ooze, that doesn't mean it couldn't have been better, and I think the best place to start is with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In case you aren't aware, there's a decent chance that Fuzzy Ooze takes inspiration from an extremely similar mechanic in Zelda. All across Hyrule, there's a harmful, gooey substance called Malice, spread across much of the game's landscape. And yep, if the player shoots a nearby ball, the clump of Malice disappears, opening up a path. The thing that makes Malice different though is that the player has a number of options to deal with it. First of all, they can just brute force their way through. Malice deals damage, but it's not an instant kill, so if the player has enough hearts, they can run across and use food resources to heal themselves. Alternatively, they can just walk around it. This is an open world game where almost any wall can be climbed, and it's pretty much always possible to find a different way past or over it. And even if the player does shoot the Malice eye to destroy it, they're using up one of their arrows and 1 point of weapon durability. Even here, there is some sense of push and pull. Now, to give credit where it's due, there are some opportunities to play around Fuzzy Ooze that I didn't mention, such as here on the first site where you can activate a kettle by shooting over the ooze and super jumping to it. This is actually really cool, as it gives players options to make the game easier or harder. Unfortunately, this just isn't how most of the ooze in the game works. In most cases, the only choice is for it to be easy. But that's actually something we should talk about. Should it be hard to get around the Fuzzy Ooze? A lot of comments seem confused about the fact that I wanted the hubs to be difficult to traverse when there's supposed to be moments of downtime between levels. And I guess that wasn't really my point. It doesn't need to be difficult, it just needs to be engaging. The hubs of previous Splatoon games weren't difficult. There's no way to game over, and you can jump to any kettle you've already discovered, meaning you can't really lose progress. It's not hard, it's just interesting. Higher levels of interaction means higher levels of engagement. And beyond that, it's a smart way to allow players to practice actual platforming mechanics in a low-stakes environment. A few comments defended Splatoon 3's slow introduction sequence, the crater levels, stating that players new to the Splatoon series might be overwhelmed if they were thrown straight into complex stages. But that's the issue Splatoon 1's hub world solved back in 2015. Rather than having a drawn-out tutorial, Splatoon 1 allows players to experiment with the controls in a space between levels where they can't really fail, but they can mess around with different mechanical ideas. It's a playground where you can learn the game at your own pace, or run straight through if you already know what you're doing. I personally find this to be a much more elegant solution and a much more organic way for players to learn. The best tutorials in games are the ones you don't remember, because they just feel like part of the game. There was already a comfortable amount of downtime between levels within this formula, so I don't really understand what problem Fuzzy Ooze is trying to solve. If the goal was to allow players to choose only the levels they really wanted to play on each site, why not just put one glob of Fuzzy Ooze on the pipe to the next area with a much larger power egg requirement? This is my main issue with Fuzzy Ooze. They wanted it to be more than just a blockade at the end of each site, but they didn't really do anything to make it fun to interact with. Like I said in my video, you're basically just opening a bunch of locked doors, creating more downtime for no reason between levels that are shorter on average. This could have been used as a way to give players options, but since every part of the hub is equally easy to traverse, your choices become meaningless. I think this is what the collectibles were supposed to be for, to make clearing out the ooze satisfying and fun even if there wasn't a lot of interactive gameplay to be had. Apparently this worked for some people. Many comments mentioned that they felt like they were strategizing on which part of the island to clean first and which kettles to take on. I guess for me it never really felt more or less difficult to go one way or the other, and maybe that is partly because of my past experience with Splatoon making this game feel easier. Regardless, I actually found the collectibles to be a little odd. Scrolls and Sardinium makes sense, but everything relating to multiplayer just felt out of place. And when replaying the campaign on a different account, they're completely pointless. So I guess they don't really work to incentivize me. Some people mention that power eggs are a currency, and that your choices have meaning because you have to spend eggs to commit to a path. And that would be true if not for the fact that every level rewards you with power eggs in bulk, so no matter where you go, you'll probably have enough eggs to keep moving forward. If you don't, it's probably because you walked right past an easy to reach kettle. So I don't really agree that the power eggs add much value. The ultimate missed potential of Fuzzy Ooze is that, like that one spot in the first area, it could have been used to give players options. These hubs could have been built to serve both returning and new players by creating simple paths where players just have to clear ooze, in addition to more complicated areas that would require platforming or clever use of game mechanics to navigate. Even the easier paths could have been designed with tricky jumps in mind to skip the ooze, like the one part of Site 5 I mentioned in the last video. This could have also been an opportunity to get more use out of the squid roll and surge, which, as of now, are terribly underused throughout all of Splatoon 3. But that is just my opinion. I am someone who loves difficult platforming and pushing a game's mechanics to their limits, but that's not how everyone feels. What I'm suggesting is definitely different from what Alterna ended up being, and it's hard to say if people who are fans of the slow-paced secret hunting would want the hubs to be like this. Like I said, Alterna introduced a new type of gameplay for Splatoon, and while I think it would be better off without it, that's not an objective truth. And I think that might just be where we have to leave it. Some people liked it, and others didn't. As fun as it's been, I think I'm ready to finally put the Fuzzy Ooze discussion to rest. I hope I've made my thoughts more clear, and I'm glad I was able to gain more perspectives from the community. It's nice to know that other people were able to enjoy the Alterna sites even if I was not. We'll just have to agree to disagree. Alright, next, a few comments pointed out that I failed to mention anything about post-game completion or special challenges. I didn't explicitly say this in the video, but I mostly just wanted to cover the general design philosophy of each campaign and the choices that would impact a typical player's experience. Since not everyone will even reach challenges like Inner Agent 3 and After Alterna, and since the design of these levels differ from how the rest of the game plays, I didn't really think they were worth talking about in the context of that video. But I guess we can talk about them here. Splatoon 1 has basically no post-game. You can go back to get any scrolls you missed and upgrade every part of your hero gear, but that's it. Splatoon 2, I think most people would agree, has too much post-game. To unlock each hero weapon as a skin in multiplayer, you have to beat every level with that weapon. A completionist run of this game is playing the game 9 times. This is not required, there's nothing else you get out of it besides the weapon skins, but yeah, it kind of sucks. I'm not sure how else they could have gone about this, but for them to even track this and encourage players to go through with it just kind of feels like padding. Probably the worst post-game in the series, but you do get to talk to Callie, so that's nice. Octo Expansion also tracks which weapon you've used on each level, but all it gives you is a checkmark on the menu and a special map background if you get all of them. You are essentially replaying a lot of the game if you want full completion, but since levels are shorter and better designed than Octo Canyon, and since there's only a max of 3 weapons to use, it's actually pretty fun. Sometimes it even feels like a special challenge, like using only Burst Bomb on Squeegee Funk Station and using Bamboo instead of Gootuber on the grappling level. What's more, clearing each stage on a subway line rewards you with multiplayer gear, and while this again is not really useful on repeat playthroughs, it definitely felt more rewarding the first time around than Splatoon 3's locker items. Plus, completing every line unlocks a super boss, the infamous Inner Agent 3. For a lot of reasons, this boss is really cool. The fight itself is a fantastic reward for completion, and again speaking as a veteran, I thought the challenge of it was super fun. Alterna is pretty similar. Using a weapon on level gets you a checkmark, but nothing else. Fully surveying a site will obviously reward you with all the items you found along the way, as well as a special map for your locker. Completing every level unlocks After Alterna, a final platforming and combat gauntlet kinda reminiscent of those found in 3D Mario games. Honestly, it's probably my favorite level in Alterna, and I love that it actually takes advantage of Splatoon 3's new movement mechanics, although I really feel like they should have been introduced earlier. Unfortunately, the only gear you get is the hero suit for beating the game and the teddy band for beating After Alterna. I really wish we got the space outfit from the final boss, but I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being amiibo gear in the future, so whatever. Changing gears a bit, I want to address something I saw a lot in the comments. This is my first Splatoon game, and I thought the story mode was great. Again, that's a completely valid opinion, and I'm really glad people enjoyed Alterna more than me. My perspective as a series veteran definitely skews my feelings about each game, and that's important to address. Sometimes it's great to be someone who has played since the beginning. Moments of fan service or references to past games can have huge payoff and make you feel extra cool for being a longtime player, but sometimes it kinda sucks. Sometimes the series will feel like it's recycling ideas over and over. The less the gameplay changes between each entry, the less fun each one is going to be for veterans. This is something that can't really be helped. Not every player is going to have played an entire series, so people are naturally going to have different opinions based on their past experience, or lack thereof, in regards to characters, stories, and most importantly, gameplay. However, some people commented that it's okay for Nintendo to reuse ideas because a lot of players are new to the series and never got to experience the past games. This is something I strongly disagree with. People were saying this back in Splatoon 2. Oh, the Switch's user base is way bigger. Way more people bought Splatoon 2 than Splatoon 1. Guess that's why the campaign has the exact same story and villain and level themes and boss fight. That isn't an excuse. The thing is, there will always be new players. In a series like Splatoon, each new entry is bound to have greater sales and exposure. So yeah, Nintendo can play it safe and stick to the same ideas they've been using for 7 years, but at least in my opinion, that's not a good thing. If the series is growing in popularity, success, and likely budget, we should expect more from them with each entry, not just more of the same. But there are new players. Even if Splatoon's gameplay loop is established, they do need to be eased into it. One of the roles of every Splatoon campaign is to teach players the basic mechanics, and it makes sense that a lot of these skills would be applicable in multiplayer. But that doesn't mean it all has to be. Splatoon campaigns are allowed to be their own thing, separate from the multiplayer core of the series. The main movement and shooting mechanics are the same, but there's no set rule to say that level themes have to represent things found in online gameplay. They can do anything they want with these levels, so we should not be defending the lack of originality in Splatoon 3 by saying it's okay because it's a tutorial. Every campaign is a tutorial. Every game to ever exist has to teach its players how to play it. That doesn't mean every campaign needs a propeller lift level. That doesn't mean we have to fight Octostomp 4 times. I hate to keep saying it, but Splatoon 3's level design just doesn't do that many new things. And like, I get it, Splatoon is already such a unique standout game compared to anything else on the market that for most people they can kind of get away with it. But if you look at the series as a whole, the repeated ideas stick out, and not in a good way. Splatoon's single player is limited to the core mechanics present in its multiplayer mode, but Splatoon 3 doesn't even use some of its core mechanics. The Squid Roll and Squid Surge have so much potential for interesting movement and platforming, and the only challenges designed around them appear in the final level of the game. If Alterna is a tutorial, and it is trying to distinguish itself from the past 3 campaigns, why isn't it teaching players the brand new basic movement mechanics unique to Splatoon 3? I genuinely don't understand. When Mario gets a new addition to his moveset, he gets levels that challenge players to learn and use those moves. I don't get why the same logic wasn't applied to Splatoon 3. It would have been the perfect way to please both returning and veteran players with brand new ideas. My only guess is that they found these mechanics difficult to use, which is why they only appear in After Alterna. But again, the hub world could have solved this. The structure of this game is so open and allows players to choose the levels they want. They had room to take risks, and for most of the game they just did not. So yeah, Splatoon 3's campaign was disappointing to me, and it might not have been disappointing to someone who hasn't played the other games. But that's not always the case. Some people are okay with more of the same, and a lot of people are just less invested than me, and I can respect that. In the end, it's very subjective. And this subjectivity can go beyond the gameplay. As I mentioned in this comment thread with Paul Ryan 220, as much as I would love to be able to discuss these games objectively, my own opinions about aspects other than gameplay are bound to impact my overall experience. I think it's pretty obvious from the Octo Expansion segment of the video that, yeah, I like these characters way more than these characters. And I like this music way more than this music. The story of Octo Expansion is very personal to me, and I'd be lying if I said I could fully separate opinion from fact when it comes to the gameplay because I just love the overall package so much. To be fair, there's definitely some objectivity to be found here. Agent 8 just is more of a character than New Agent 3. Their personality shines through in cutscenes, they have ties to existing characters, and we literally learn their opinion on like most of the things in the game through the memcakes. No other Splatoon protagonist has anywhere near this level of characterization, and is why Agent 8 is a fan favorite. So, as a longtime Splatoon fan, that's just how it is. There are just a lot of things Splatoon 3 messes up, and for me it's enough to bring down the whole experience. If you like Deep Cut, if you like Grizz as a villain, if you like Fuzzy Ooze, if you like these types of levels, you'll probably enjoy Splatoon 3. But if you're like me, and you've seen so many of these ideas done before, and in many cases done better, you might agree that it didn't quite live up to expectations. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Sorry this took so long to come out after the first video, I still don't really have any kind of schedule for this stuff, but I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any further thoughts, I'll still try to reply to the comments on this video too. And just to be extra clear, you're allowed to feel however you want about these games. I want this kind of discussion to be a back and forth conversation. I'm not trying to say anyone is right or wrong. Talking about these games is just fun, and I hope I don't come across as some kind of Splatoon boomer. Splatoon 3 is still fun. And the future is looking bright. Side Order has the potential to blow all these campaigns out of the water. They just have to actually release it at some point. I realize that I mostly had negative things to say in this video, so hopefully I can balance that out with a video gushing about Octo Expansion sometime. For now, I'd like to move away from the gameplay discussion and make some videos talking about Splatoon's story, but I'm sure Side Order will eventually give us plenty more to talk about in both categories. With all that said, thank you for watching. This has been Cosmic. Farewell.